In your book, Growing Cooler, you talk about smart growth policies. Explain what that means.
Smart growth has a number of definitions, but in the context we're talking about it, it means looking at integrated transportation and land use. Basically, not isolated uses where you have residential here, commercial here. It's about blending development so that people can actually walk to the store, kids can walk to the park or to school. Because the amount we drive, the work trip, is only 30% of all the miles that we drive. So it means even if you have transit in a place, that design is really important. So there's the elements of transit orientation, of sidewalks, and also looking at the regional location. When things are farther apart, people drive more. If things are closer together, even if there isn't great transit, you have shorter trip distances. In fact, that's what we find in the book. A lot of the benefits are just from shorter trips.
Are we only talking about new growth and development here? What about current cities that need to be looked at and revamped?
Right. There's a natural turnover cycle. One of the statistics that we talk about in the book is that what's going to be on the ground, all the buildings in the year 2030, half of them don't exist yet. So there's a big opportunity for the new growth, and that's where we focus our calculations in terms of what the potential savings are. But if you look at a place like the Arlington, Virginia, the Ballston-Roslyn corridor there, where they, over 20 years, focused development around some metro stations, that didn't affect the nearby neighborhoods, but actually created new choices for those folks in terms of taking transit, walking to the cafe, and shopping. So it's focusing the growth. That's what smart growth is about, but there can be multiple benefits for existing development as well.
And one item that got a lot of traction in the news recently was in New York City. New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg wanted to propose or implement a congestion tax in Midtown Manhattan, and it didn't fly with local residents there. Could something like that work in a city the size of Manhattan, or do we need to be looking at making the city more walkable, making it more bike-friendly before you start implementing a plan like that?
I'm still in mourning about that.
I'm sorry.
Because what in Plan YC, what New York City put together was really a comprehensive package that says there's a need for a revenue stream. Folks, we need some money. There's an infrastructure deficit. We have to have money to invest in things. We're going to raise it in such a way that we're discouraging driving. We're increasing transit choices for neighborhoods and boroughs that haven't had good choices. We're adding affordable housing. They're doing good land use. So a lot of those pieces are still happening in New York City. But any pricing measure without good choices, and just look at current gas prices, wind up being regressive. If you don't have a choice, it's not a good thing if you have a higher price. If you have a higher price and you have good options and you can walk to the store instead of drive 5 miles to get your gallon of milk, then it works together. So I think I don't think that's dead in New York City. It's a big, it's I'd say stopped for now. But that comprehensive approach is also what's different from what we've seen in any effort to deal with transportation and land use. In California, they really, years past, said technology and fuel policies are the only thing that works, partly because they focused on employer site-level decisions. So if you have a bike rack or you have a shuttle, without looking at the full regional context and the full set of policies to get there. And I think we're at a point where we're saying, what is the comprehensive policy set that's necessary to provide choices for people so that they don't have to drive everywhere long distances?
So this is a lifestyle change. How do you convince someone who's used to driving everywhere that they should be taking public transportation or riding their bike?
Well, they'll just read my book and they'll know. Now, the point is that one of the things we talk about in the book, there's an unmet market demand. A number of surveys from the realtors and Association of Home Builders, from other developers, show that about 1/3 of the market nationally wants more walkable communities, call it smart growth development, and a small fraction of the market actually fits into that category. Also, demographic changes with the aging of the baby boomers, more single-family households, new immigrants, show that there'll be less and less demand for large lot, single-family detached, and more for multifamily transit-oriented development. That doesn't mean all new development. That doesn't mean everyone wants it, but it means there's a big chunk of the market that wants it, and it's important to figure out where exactly that is so that you meet that demand and not force it upon people who don't want it.
So this is just a question of using our common sense and adapting to the changes that are occurring?
Right, and exactly what I'm saying about the transportation bill. Let's look at the whatever trillions of dollars we're going to spend in infrastructure in the next couple of decades. Let's make sure that they're creating those choices, better transportation choices, and also look at what does that do to vulnerabilities to the impacts of climate change. We have our Urban Leaders Adaptation Initiative working with 9 cities around the country and counties, including King County, Washington, and we're saying, if you put a new development in a floodplain, well, that's not a good idea because that's probably expanding and floods are going to be more frequent. What do you do about more frequent heat events, more frequent storms, and how do your infrastructure and land use decisions play into that? Basically, the bottom line is that what we build, where and how, has a big impact not just on emissions and the amount we drive, but also the vulnerabilities of our communities and infrastructure. And so I think as those pieces become integrated, it's not that we need whole new investment streams, but it's just about looking forward, what are we doing, and what's our vision for how we want to grow.
Okay, a good note to end on. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
This is On Point. I'm Monica Trauzy. Thanks for watching.